In our virtual green room, we have Mary Martin, that she has written a book called Come Home Alive, The Power of Knowing How to Work Together to Make It Through the Crisis of Cancer. Mary, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you as well, Kate. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciated the opportunity to get to know you a little more.
Yeah, that was great. We had a great off-air conversation. So tell the listeners why you wrote this book and tell them about your journey.
The reason why I wrote the book, I will have to first of all say I do really believe that it was a spirit-led book. I believe that over the last 20 years, the Lord has been leading and guiding me just by infusing scripture and situations and life examples to begin to have just the capacity to deal with a diagnosis like that. When you hear a diagnosis that your husband has received a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, it's crippling. And so I want to just thank the Lord for the infusing of scripture and the power of prayer. I really wrote it because I think caregivers everywhere need support. I think caregivers everywhere are doing the best they possibly can do. And sometimes you don't know what you're doing, and you're just struggling in the dark. So I wrote it for caregivers to commend them and provide appreciation to them and maybe give them some guidance on really dark and dreary nights.
And what was it like? I just meant to jump in here because a stage 4 diagnosis, and you said it was crippling. I mean, take us to that moment. What is that like?
Well, my husband had gone into the doctor. He had not been feeling well, and he had already begun losing quite a bit of weight. And so he knew pretty much that something was not right. And so he had a first diagnosis of acid reflux, which he kind of thought was a joke. And 4 months later, we got the chance to go see a really powerful doctor who immediately, when Chris walked in his office, knew that it was stage 3 or beyond. So we originally, once that happened, we kind of were placed in a place where we now are kind of hopeless, and we're looking to all of the medical attention we can get to stop this in its tracks. And so it was very crippling. I just went and vomited. I mean, it was, I will just tell you, it was, your stomach is gone. And I immediately went to the restroom.
Awful. So tell us more about the book. I mean, we know it's this journey and what happened, and then how do you come out on the other side of this?
Well, I'll jump to the end. The book is called Come Home Alive, and that's really what it's about. I wanted people to know at the very outset that through the power of prayer, through the power of believing, through really understanding each other in a crisis, that you can make it through. So many tips and tricks about love and compassion are still one of the most powerful medicines that are out there, and we need to be practicing that with each other every single day, especially our loved ones, especially our spouses, as we go through this. So he came home alive, and it was a journey because he was on a feeding tube for 18 months. He went through chemotherapy. He went through radiation. He lost 50 pounds or more in that whole process. He got underneath 120 pounds. So when your husband weighs less than you do, that's a wake-up call.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing about your book. Your book is a book of hope, I think, because it is so shocking when that happens to you. Where do you turn? Where did you turn? Who do you call? What do you do? And it's really tough, isn't it?
It is, but we were never alone in the whole walk that we had from 2013, which was the diagnosis, till I would say maybe 2016 was when he really was able to get his full life back again. We were never alone. We have a strong faith community. They were praying for us constantly. I just claimed Exodus 33:14 as our guidepost. My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. And I will have to say that's really what got us through.
Yeah. Was it cathartic for you to write this book?
It was, I would say, well, my sister is a nurse, and I dedicated the book to her because she said once to me about her husband, I really believe that my sole purpose in life, Mary, is to provide and give care to Edward. And that really resonated with me. And so I wanted to help other people realize that being a caregiver is a tremendous gift to those that you're giving care to. And we can never, ever take it for granted. So I would say that was probably the premise of it, even though the book is very, very, it's very, it's pretty much of an autobiography of my life focused on his care for 3 or 4 years. I wanted to give caregivers as well as patients hope that you can come home alive. And there are things that you can do and not give up. Because I really believe in my heart of hearts that we have conquered some of these diseases. It's just making it through the day-to-day of dealing with the prescription. So, for Chris, because of all the radiation in his throat, it really, really killed all those cells. So he couldn't taste, he couldn't swallow, he couldn't anything. And so the prescription in some cases is the killer. And how do you recognize what are the things you're going to need to do to circumvent the killer so that you can come home alive? Because the prescription is what's going to make you better. But if the prescription kills you, then how can it make you better?
Yeah. And it's interesting because you had this life where everything seemed to fall in place, right? For 24 years, you're these certified consultants. You're teaching, you're consulting, you're coaching people about self-awareness and identifying especially their strengths and what they need to do as far as communication. And then you're thrusted into a much different journey.
Yes, but that foundation, I would say, I don't know. I can't give a percentage to it, but it really contributed to the whole ability for us to stay sane and to understand how to navigate.
Yeah.
So he understood what my strengths were. I understood what his strengths were, and especially understanding what a person's needs are in order to thrive. Because getting through this, I believe, is about recognizing every single day you have a purpose. And I still have a purpose, and I still have a purpose. So for patients, I think that's probably the number one thing to focus on. What is my purpose today?
Yeah. What do you hope people take away from Come Home Alive, The Power of Knowing How to Work Together to Make It Through the Crisis of Cancer, which you can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever great books are sold?
Thank you. Yes. What I hope, I guess, to walk away with is maybe a formula, maybe a prescription. I don't know. Sometimes you're in the dark and you don't know what should I do first. So we kind of had this prescription, which was pray, believe, know the patient, know the caregiver, be grateful and thankful, and expect a miracle. And I think at the very, very outset, as we're grateful and thankful for each small day, each small progress moment that we can cherish and remember, that contributes to ultimately the miracle that can happen in healing, because individuals don't heal people. God heals people. And Chris is a miracle.
Oh, such a good miracle. So what's your next book? It is incredible to be alive.
Oh, Kate, it's fancy you should ask. I've been thinking a lot about it. And the word real has really been resonating to me. And because we all are dealing in reality, and some of reality today is pretty fake. Some of reality today is very chaotic. There's a lot of cacophony going on in the world. And I thought a lot about it, and I'm thinking about how to focus on she thinks I'm real. People today want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they don't want to be invisible. And I think when people are going through this cancer or diagnosis, all of a sudden you're a shell of yourself. And I think people really need to know that they're real and that others believe they're real and that they can contribute.
Yeah. Perfect place to end this. Mary Martin, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope our paths cross again.
I do too. Thanks.